What is up, everybody? My name is Justin French, covering music for those who care, and right now I'm taking a look at the third solo studio album from Jack White, this record entitled Boarding House Reach. So for those of you who don't know who Jack White is the legendary frontman of the White Stripes, and for those of you who have never heard of the White Stripes, they really kind of changed the game up for the kind of punk and blues scene, and I guess you would say alternative rock sound in the early 2000s, especially with their monumental record, Elephant, which really holds a special place in my heart because it's kind of the album that kind of had me messing around with the whole kind of punk blues sound in the guitars, and definitely had me experiment with more kind of bluesy sounding soloing. So it definitely kind of changed the game up for me instrumentally. And he's also been in other bands such as the Raconteurs and the Dead Weather, and the Raconteurs haven't released any studio albums since, I believe, 2008, so it'd be pretty interesting to get something new from them anytime now. But Steady as She Goes was the first song I think I played on Guitar Hero 5 and got 100% on it, so that was pretty interesting. Kind of got me into Jack White too. And also, he's collaborated with such artists such as Beyonce, Alicia Keys, and even country great Loretta Lynn, so you can definitely see that he's got a really big catalog of music behind his belt. Now, for anyone that hasn't gotten a chance to listen to any of Jack White's solo material yet, Blunderbuss came out in 2012, and that record was just very eccentric, but in a good way. I really enjoy the fact that Jack kind of retained that blues rock sound that he's been known for since the start of his career, and then kind of experimenting with it on tracks like 16 Saltines, going for more of the punk blues sound that Jack has kind of pioneered over the years. And then some soulful country in the track Love Interruption, and I got some hip-hop influence, I don't know if anyone else did, on the track Freedom at 21, one of the highlights from that record, and also a cover of I'm Shakin' from Back in the 50s. And then you had Lazaretto come out in 2014, and that record, it did retain that blues rock sound, I definitely got that, and definitely majority of the time kind of mixed it up with some country music. And if I had to choose between one or the other, I would say Blunderbuss, just because I just really love the aesthetic of that record more than Lazaretto. But they're both really enjoyable for anyone that hasn't gotten a chance to listen to them. Definitely go check them out. Now, jump forward to 2018. It's been 4 years since we've gotten Lazaretto, and now we finally have a new Jack White solo record. And I stated in an Instagram live video, for anyone that's gotten a chance to see that, I don't remember if it came out in late December, early January, sometime around that time, but I had stated that Boarding House Reach was one of my anticipated records of 2018 just because I really enjoyed Jack White's solo material so far, so I was really excited to see what direction the new record would go. So now that the new record is here, what are my thoughts on this record as a whole? Now, I'm going to go ahead and be a bit blunt here and say that on the first listen to this record, I kind of wasn't a big fan of it, honestly, and I think the main reason for that is just because of the direction in this thing. I know Jack said this was going to be a very experimental record, but at the same time, it just goes very ballistic in its sound. It goes from soul on one track, punk blues in another. There's even a hip-hop influenced track on this record, folk, country, even spoken word. It just goes, very loose, honestly, but the more times I listened to this thing, about the second, third time that I started listening to it, I think it was about the third, I kind of started to say, okay, I'm kind of starting to dig it a little bit. The first single that we got off of this record was Connected by Love, and for anyone that hasn't gotten a chance to see the reaction or review that I did for that song, I'm going to go ahead and say that I kind of changed my mind on my thoughts on it. I do have to say that this is one of the weakest songs on the record. It just feels really boring in my opinion. I do like that it's kind of leading more towards kind of piano and organ led, and I like Jack's delivery on it, but I mean, I don't know, it just feels a bit boring in my opinion, and for singles wise, this has got to be one of his weakest in my opinion. Now, prior to this record coming out, I've heard rumors and critics say that this is going to be more of Jack's electronic record. And while I do see where critics and rumor mills are kind of getting with that statement, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now that I don't think this is a fully electronic record. I don't think Jack would go full electronic in my opinion. But I do kind of see some of the experimentation in the electronic side. I definitely saw that in the track Respect Commander a little bit. I know it kind of started off as an instrumental, and it's definitely one of the highlights for this record, and then kind of has Jack coming in a little bit later in the track. But then you have other songs such as Hyper Misophonatic and then Getting the Mineshaft. And Getting the Mineshaft is just a very, very experimental track on this record, and I would call it robo-funk. I'd go as far as to call it that, just because I would say robo, because that's how Jack sounds on this track. And this track also begins with a spoken word, I'm assuming by Jack, and then kind of talks about, near the end, the first 3 notes that he hit on the piano. And it kind of goes from there. It just goes really kind of funky and very experimental. Definitely one of the highlights on this record, in my opinion. Now, like I've stated over the course of this video, I'm sure a lot of you are probably tired of me saying this, but oh well. This record does go very, very experimental, and you can see that on tracks such as Corporation, which I think does a really nice job of being a good balance between the blues rock style and mixing up with kind of psychedelic funk. Consider that my reaction review to that track, or just a review actually, for Corporation, because I never got a chance to do it. I was planning on it, but I never got the time to. And then you have other songs such as Ice Station Zebra, which kind of goes for more hip-hop influence, and in my opinion just feels a bit kind of old school, and also kind of does a nice job of blending that with the blues rock style that Jack has been very well known for. And also another song that Jack is very well known for in his style is Over and Over and Over, which kind of goes for that punk blues style sound that Jack has been known for over the course of his career. And I've heard a rumor that this was originally going to be a collaboration whenever Jack was in the White Stripes with Jay-Z, and to be honest with you, I would have been down for that. I kind of would have been interested to see what those 2 or 3, if it would have been White Stripes and Jay-Z, would have cooked up in the studio. That'd be pretty interesting in my opinion. Now, some songs I'm probably not going to be going back to as much on this record are most likely going to be Abulia and Acrasia. I'm probably butchering that. Y'all can roast me in the comments for that. But also Esmeralda Steals the Show, and I think the main reason for those 2 are just because they're kind of spoken word, so they're not really much for me coming back to. And also What's Done Is Done. I'm just not too big on Jack's delivery on that song. I mean, I like that it kind of mixes the electronic drum beats on the song and kind of, I would say, acoustic kind of sounding song, but Jack's vocal delivery on that is what's kind of killing me on going back and listening to that song. So overall, while I didn't enjoy this thing on the first listen, I will say that it does kind of grow on you over time. I like the fact that Jack kind of doesn't do the same album every single time he puts something out, but at the same time, this record on first listen to me, it just felt a bit messy as to what direction it kind of wants to go in. I know it was a very experimental record. I feel like I've been saying that now. The word of the day is experimental. But it just goes very experimental in its sound, which I dig. I always love whenever an artist decides to experiment with their sound. But here, I feel like it's a bit messy on first listen, but it kind of grows with you over time. So I'm going to give this album, I'll rate it probably a 7 out of 10. But anyways, y'all, what did you think of Boarding House Reach? Definitely comment in the comment section down below. And anyways, y'all, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you all for watching this video. As always, thanks to Infinity on Hannah for these awesome designs. If you want to subscribe to my channel, you can click right over there to catch up on more content on this channel. If you want to see a previous video that I did, you can click right over there to see that video. And if you want to follow any of my social media links, they are linked down at the bottom. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you soon.